Hey book lovers, I'm Elise and welcome to a new reading vlog. In this reading vlog, I'm focusing on some new 2023 releases. The first one that I read was T. Kingfisher's new horror, A House with Good Bones. I got that one from the library. I've already finished it, taken it back, so I don't have a copy, but I'll show it here. This is my third T. Kingfisher novel that I've read. I've also read What Moves the Dead and Sword Heart. I really enjoyed both of those. The second book that I read in this vlog is You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. This one is for the May book club pick for Jess's Sleep When I'm Dead book club, and this is my second Geneva Rose. The other one that I've read was One of Us is Dead. Really enjoyed that one. So I was excited to get to this one. And the last book in this vlog is The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. And this one is the follow-up to The Soulmate Equation, which I did actually read earlier this month as well. So we've got a horror, we've got a thriller, and we've got a romance. I'm excited. Let's get to it. Hi, hello. My boyfriend's nephew just turned 2 today. He had a birthday party, so we went to that and we just got home. Sun is setting and the light is better on this side of the house, so I'm filming in my kids' room right now. I'm about halfway through A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I'm disappointed. This is my third T. Kingfisher. I've read What Moves the Dead, loved it, 5 stars. Earlier this month I read Sword Heart, really enjoyed that one. I gave that one 4.5 stars. But this one I don't know. I'm confused. I'm not confused. Like, I don't understand the plot. What is this girl's name? I don't even remember her name. Sam. So Sam, she's like an archaeological entomologist, right? I can't remember what it's called. And they're in North Carolina. I feel like usually anytime I read a book taking place in one of the Carolinas, it's South Carolina. So that's kind of refreshing. Hi. I'm filming. Thank you. He's probably like, what are you doing in my room? Oh, I was really close. Okay. I said archaeological entomologist. She's an archaeoentomologist. So I just added a few more syllables. She studies insects and archaeological remains. She's about to go on this archaeological dig for her work, and they end up finding human remains on the dig site like 3 days in. They had to put the dig on hold. So instead of going to the dig site, which I want to say was like somewhere up in like the Northwest area. She lives in Arizona. But rather than going up there to the dig site, she ends up going home to North Carolina to stay with her mom for a little bit because she already like sublet her apartment for the time that she would be gone. That's why she went to her mom's house, which used to be her grandma's house. But then at the same time, she also went because her brother's been saying like, mom's off, something's not right. She gets there. And I like Sam. She's funny. She's like 32. She's a bigger girl, so there's like big girl representation, which I appreciate. She's funny. She's really funny, and I relate to her a lot. And like she likes to point things out, like species of plants or trees or animals, insects, things like that. So I like that aspect of it as well. And I liked that about What Moves the Dead, because that happens in that book a little bit as well, like specifically with fungi, mushrooms and mold and things like that. I like that aspect of it, but everything else is just kind of like, I don't know. Like there's a vulture, so there's vultures in this neighborhood. And Sam, when she gets to the house, she's telling the reader about her grandmother who used to own the house, lived there for years and years and years, and kind of like explaining what kind of woman that she was. And for the last like 20 years, her mom's been living there, but she still refers to it as her grandma's house. She's kind of like noticing things that are different. I guess like when her mom moved into the house, she changed things from what the grandma had. But now things are kind of reverting back to the way that grandma had it, to include like paint colors, artwork that had been removed and like put up in the attic, but is now been brought down from the attic and put back up. Pieces of art that Sam knows her mother despises, and she's like, well, why would she hang this back up? And like some of her mannerisms are different, and the way that she talks and socializes. So yeah, I'm like halfway through, and like the only thing that's happened is Sam has talked about, like, she's observed that there's not many bugs in the garden, but then she finds bugs. And she's like, okay, I'm glad there's bugs. And then there's been like socializations with the neighbors, a phone call with her brother. I don't know. I kind of want to DNF this, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to because it's T. Kingfisher and I love her writing. And she deserves for me to read the book in its entirety so I can get the full picture. But it's not super long. It's like 200 some pages, like 250-ish. 243. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep reading. I really hope things turn around a little bit.
I've been giving you the worst of me. Now you wanna stay tonight. Pretty how you work hard for me. Why forgetting how to talk? Nah, I don't like no humble beats. Just go and slice it up. Now it's time to marinate. And right after we're done, I like it when you're looking like that.
So I finished A House with Good Bones, and I am so disappointed. This one was just not it. It was a little too weird, and I keep saying that I like weird as a defense for me saying that a book was too weird. So maybe I don't like weird. I felt like there wasn't really any plot. You know, this woman comes home and she's making a big deal about the fact that her mom is acting differently. And then at the same time, she's frequently speaking about her grandmother, who I guess was a terrible person. I don't know. By the time the reveal came out, everything made sense. I still love her writing, and I love the humor that she puts into her writing. Sam, she's a really funny character. I liked her a lot. Didn't really care for any of the other characters. I'm gonna give this 2 stars. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. Certainly not identical. Storylines are completely different, but just the strangeness of it, the weird house aspect, the strained relationship between mother and daughter. Those are kind of the similarities that I noticed. And the fact that like for most of the book, you're like, what the heck is going on? And then at the end, it's this huge big thing. So those are the similarities. I personally did not like Just Like Home. I think I rated that 2 or 2.5 stars. So makes sense that this one was 2 stars. So with that one done, I started on I don't have the dust jacket. You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. At this point, I am 135 pages. Okay. My biggest complaint about this book is the book itself. It is so stiff. Even the dust jacket is stiff. Like, ugh. And like, look at, it doesn't fall open. And every time I flip the page, I'm like, ooh. Trying to flatten it out and it's not working. It is not working at all. Physically speaking, this is a terrible book. It is not comfortable to read in the slightest, and I'm convinced, because I've been reading this for a few days now, and I'm convinced that if I were reading it on Kindle or if I had like a floppy paperback version, I'd be reading it a lot more. I also don't have the audiobook for it, so I'm just kind of reading at my own pace. But anyways, this story follows 2 people, Grace and Calvin. So Grace is this city girl from New York City, and she is traveling to stay at an Airbnb in Wyoming. And Calvin is the guy who runs this Airbnb. And we get both their points of view. Every other chapter it flips back and forth between the 2 of them. There's a lot of like suspense happening, like weird things, weird noises, weird things that either happen or weird things that are seen. So there is that suspense being built, but for the most part, I mean, I'm essentially halfway through and not a lot has happened. So definitely a slow burn so far. A couple things that I've heard a lot of people say about this is that it's like a suspenseful romance. I wouldn't say that. Grace and Calvin, they're both single, attractive people, and yeah, I mean there's definitely a flirtation between them because they're the only 2 people there. So I mean, I think that's probably just normal human nature. And then another thing that I've heard people say is that it's weird that he is still there, but I don't personally think that's weird. I've never done an Airbnb. I don't know if Airbnb is supposed to be strictly like you're essentially renting something, but if you think of a regular bed and breakfast, which I have been to, the owner of the house is there. They're like hosting you, and they're, you know, making sure that you're settled in and that you have things to do and that you have food and, you know, things like that. So I don't think it's weird that Calvin's there. So as far as my enjoyment, I'm not loving it, but I'm certainly not hating it. Like I said, there's not been a whole lot that's happened. I mean, there's been things that have happened, but I feel like we're not really getting anywhere. It's just kind of the day-to-day events of Grace staying at this Airbnb with Calvin on his ranch in Wyoming. I mean, we're not really learning a whole lot about either character. It sounds sounds like they both kind of have a bit of a past that they're trying to keep a little secretive from each other, and I guess from us as the reader as well, because I don't really know what either of their deal is. Right now it's probably sitting at 3.5 stars. So depending on how the second half turns out, it could go up to a 4 or higher, or it could even go down. Definitely will not be a 5-star. Things that have kind of irritated me about this, the way that Calvin is being depicted, that he's got like this southern drawl and he says yeah a lot, like instead of you, like what are you up to? He's like, what are you up to? And that was really annoying to me. Where is Wyoming? That's over by Montana, isn't it? Montana and the Dakotas. So why would he have like a southern accent? That's the impression I'm getting, is it's like a southern accent or some kind of country drawl. But yeah, I thought it was like by Montana, Colorado. Need a map. See, and then I just spoke with a southern accent. It's literally between Montana and Colorado. It's south of Montana, north of Colorado. So yeah, I've been to Montana, I've been to Idaho, which are all right there. And as far as I know, people didn't talk like that. Anyways, so that part's a little annoying. Calvin is like mesmerized by Grace and her blue eyes. Literally every time he references her eyes, they're blue eyes. And then there was another thing too. What was it that kind of irritated? Oh, how she's not a regular girl. She's not like other girls. But it's not Grace saying that. It's Calvin saying it, which it's cringy either way, honestly. But she's doing like the most basic things, saying the most basic things. Like, I don't mean basic in a bad way. I mean like an average thing that like an average woman would say. And he's just so in love with her. Like, most girls don't say things like that, or most girls don't think that way, or most girls don't do this. It's like, yes, we do. We do. He's just grasping at straws here, trying to make her seem like she's this unicorn of a woman, and she's just a woman, and that's perfectly fine. But calm down, Calvin. I think for the most part, I'm enjoying this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Sprints with Jordan start in just over 30 minutes, so I'm going to get a snack and read some more of this. I feel like I've been reading it forever. I didn't know John Mars blurbed this. A pitch perfect sinister read and begging for a sequel. Is there gonna be an ambiguous ending? Who else? Alex Finley, I've never read anything by. Cara Ruda, I don't know who that is. Jennifer Hillier, a page turner from start to finish with a whiplash of a twist ending. Oh my gosh. Geneva Rose is the queen of twists. She is pretty good, and I say that having only read One of Us is Dead. I just realized something. Is that blood? Makes sense. I mean, that's a blood handprint. Oh, I was reading this outside yesterday after I picked my kids up from school, and my youngest was out there with me. I was looking at this and I grabbed his hand. I was like, hey, put your hand here for a second. And it's the exact same size as his hand. I thought that was kind of cute. I don't know. But then also kind of creepy. It's a child-size bloody handprint on the front of the book.
When you look like that, don't wanna watch a bugger with a white mouth. Just lucky when you're looking like no sweets, no rush, can't my attraction. Don't think twice, I'm here for a moment. No, I like him better. I got a church, please help me end up making last forever. I've been giving you the worst. Now you wanna stay the night.
I'm about 200 pages into You Shouldn't Have Come Here. I don't know why I'm holding this up because there's no dust jacket, but I'm really liking this. My kids and I are hanging out at my parents' today, so that's where I'm at. That's where I'm filming, out on the front porch. But yeah, I'm really liking this now. So it's definitely a slow burn. That's just something to keep in mind. But things are really starting to amp up. So yeah, there's only 289 pages, I think. Like, of actual storytelling, there's 289 pages, and I'm 200 pages in, so less than 100 pages to go. I think for most of my reading, I think it started out as like a 4-star, and then for most of it, it kind of went down to a 3.5 star. I honestly think I'm back up to a 4-star right now. I like the chemistry between, I don't know what that is, like target practice or something. I really like the chemistry between Grace and Calvin, and like, I don't know. There's some pretty good scenes in regards to that. And then at one point there was like a a little get together at the ranch. It was nice to kind of see other characters kind of pop in and be part of the situation. And it was actually a really cute part. There was a guy there, and he and his girlfriend broke up. She thinks it's over. He still wants to try to win her back. And he talked about how he's turned into such a sappy romantic guy, and he's even gone as far as reading Colleen Hoover books to get pointers on how to be romantic. I've read Verity, but as far as her normal romance reads go, I haven't read them, so I don't know, but I've heard they're pretty intense and toxic, so I don't know if that's like the best books for him to get pointers from. But anyways, I just thought that was kind of funny. And things keep happening. Like, I can't say anything because I don't want to spoil it, but things keep happening, and there's definitely suspense. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is thriller-esque quite yet. I'm hoping it kind of gets to that point, but definitely suspenseful. That's for sure. And just like the tension between, like the sexual tension between Calvin and Grace, but also like the tension between some of the other characters and Calvin, or some of the other characters and Grace. So yeah, I feel like it's building up to something, and I'm really excited to see what the twist is going to be. It's been a few days, but I did finish You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. I liked this. As I said before, this is definitely a slow burn, very romance heavy. I would not consider it to be a romance. I would consider it to be a thriller, but for a lot of the book, the primary focus is the connection, the attraction, the flirtation between Grace and Calvin, and is honestly kind of what led up to everything that ended up happening. This went somewhere I did not expect. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was completely taken by surprise. And it all made sense too, and I loved that. So ultimately, I'm going to be rating this one 4 stars. Not quite 5 stars because all like the little things that irritated me about the yeah and overuse of the word mosey. There are a couple other things too that kind of bothered me, but by the end, it made sense why that happened or why that was emphasized, so I no longer have an issue with it. And I really liked the characters in this. There are a number of side characters, and I feel like every character had a purpose, you know? Like there wasn't anybody just thrown in willy-nilly and then not really talked about again, or just there for an extra body. Like they all had a purpose, they all had a role to play, and I liked that. So this definitely played out like a movie in my head. As far as Grace goes, initially started picturing her, I heard people cast her as Blake Lively, but that didn't fit for me. So for a while I was actually picturing her as Amanda Seyfried, but eventually, just because of her mannerisms and the way the book was going, I ended up picturing her as Florence Pugh. And honestly, Florence Pugh is kind of like my go-to cast, honestly. And then I saw somebody on Instagram cast Scott Eastwood as Calvin, and I thought that was a perfect fit, so that's who I was picturing for Calvin. Honestly, for Joe, who was Calvin's brother, I was picturing Dacre Montgomery, who played Billy in Stranger Things. Yeah, and then I saw somebody else cast Jason Momoa as Wyatt. I didn't see that until after I was done reading the book, but looking back, I'm like, oh, that would have been fun. So this was a fun ride. It's easier for me to believe why somebody would DNF this book versus rating it low. So the people that have DNF this, like, I get it. I understand. It is slow in the beginning, not super thrillery. It's more like suspenseful, like, ooh, what's going on here? But I do wish that they would keep going because, to me anyways, I felt like it was well worth it. Started this one. This is going well. At this point, I'm about halfway, maybe not quite. For the most part, I think I am liking this better than The Soulmate Equation, which I actually just read a couple weeks ago, earlier this month. And that one I ended up rating 3.5 stars, which is weird because there's a lot about The Soulmate Equation that I liked better than what's happening in here. Like with this one, okay, let me tell you what it's about. This book follows Fizzy, who we saw in The Soulmate Equation. She is Jess's best friend. This book takes place about 3 years after The Soulmate Equation. And Fizzy is kind of at a point in her life. I think they said she's 37. I'm pretty sure the book said that she was 37, which means that she's actually older than the male love interest, which... not by much, by like 3 or 4 years. But still, you don't see that super often where the woman is older than the man. Fizzy she's a romance novelist, and she's doing this commencement speech at this university graduation. And she's talking about how, you know, you have to live your life like a romance novel and find your joy, things like that. And it occurs to her that she's not really doing that. She's never really been in love. She's done the casual dating thing, the casual sex thing, but she's never really had that connection. And having seen her best friend Jess literally meet the love of her life and fall in love and just have this like perfect, amazing relationship, she wants that too. But the love interest is Connor. He's a producer, and right now previously he was doing like nature documentaries, environmental documentaries, things like that. And he is British, although he's lived in America for quite a long time, and he is divorced and has a 10-year-old daughter. I'm so jealous of his co-parenting relationship with Natalia. They call her Nat, but they have such a healthy co-parenting relationship. They're friends and they respect one another. They want the best for one another. I'm so jealous. I've talked about this before on my channel, but I'm divorced. I have 2 kids from a previous marriage, and we, despite what I would like for us and what I wanted for us, when we got divorced, we do not have a good co-parenting relationship. It's very toxic, not a good situation. You need both people to agree to that and try. And that's just not happening in my situation. So it is really, really nice to see this display of what a healthy co-parenting relationship should look like. I really appreciate that in this one. Connor's boss basically says that they need to do something to get better ratings, and instead of nature documentaries, he wants Connor to lead a reality dating show. So one thing leads to another, and he ends up working with Fizzy to produce this, and she ends up being the bachelorette. But the twist is they use Genetic Ally. Okay, so first of all, in The Soulmate Equation, okay, the way that the name of the company is written out looks like genetic ally. The audiobook for the soulmate equation, they pronounced it genetically. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But then in this audiobook, they pronounce it genetic ally. So I'm like, okay, so it should have been genetic ally. The twist to this dating show is that all of the contestants have taken this genetic test. And when you take this test, it looks at different markers to determine a compatibility score. Every one of these contestants on the show have a certain level of compatibility with Fizzy. And so the audience is actually the ones they get to vote. And based on the interactions that happen between Fizzy and the contestants, they get to vote off people that they don't think are a good match. So in the end, the goal is trying to figure out how accurate is this DNA test, and can the audience pick up on the compatibilities, and can they actually pick the best match for Fizzy. The hope is that the person that winds up at the end with Fizzy is actually the person that scored the best compatibility with Fizzy. That's kind of the premise. But of course, during the pre-production phase, Fizzy and Connor kind of fall head over heels in lust with each other. My only complaint with that is it happened so quickly. It was almost like insta-lust. It seemed too instantaneous for me. I remember reading it, and then all of a sudden, at one moment they're strangers or acquaintances, and then the next moment they're kind of they want to be together, but they can't. And I don't know. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't think this is going to be 5 stars. Right now it's probably sitting at a 4. The things that I do like about this more than the soulmate equation is I like Fizzy more than I liked Jess. Jess is very level-headed, very, mature for her age because she had a daughter pretty young. Fizzy, she's fun. And she's playful and very confident. She gives off Samantha from Sex and the City vibes just a little bit. Enjoying it. Very interested to see where it's going to go. So I just got out of work and I wanted to finish listening to the True Love Experiment because I have just over an hour left on the audio. And the audiobook was playing fine for a little bit. All of a sudden the audiobook stopped working, and I have a text message from my internet provider saying that there's an outage and it's not estimated to be back for 2.5 hours. And I don't have great cell service where I live, so no audiobooks for me. I wanted to finish this vlog tonight and I'm not going to be able to now, so I guess I will talk to you tomorrow. I just finished the True Love Experiment. It was fine. When it started out, I felt like I was enjoying it more than the soulmate equation. I think they were pretty similar in my liking. I liked them both for different reasons. This one was funnier. This one had, I wouldn't say the smut in this one is better because it was, pretty good in both. I did like the love interest in the soulmate equation better. And for me, my personal attraction to the love interest plays a huge role in whether or not I like a romance or if I want to rate it highly. I still really felt like the connection between Fizzy and Connor was a little too instantaneous and felt a little unrealistic. But once their connection and attraction was established, I liked their dynamic. I feel like they were a good match for each other. Like I said before, I really appreciated the representation of what a healthy co-parenting relationship looks like. This one has a bit of I wouldn't call it a twist, but kind of a moment that you don't necessarily, some people might see it coming. I didn't see it coming. And while it made for a really cute ending, it was kind of unrealistic. That would have never happened in real life. Absolutely not. No. What the is that? There's a huge bug. What is that? I don't like it. Oh, you know what? I think it's a dragonfly. I see wings. It's just a dragonfly. So all I could see is this huge body and what looks like ginormous pincers, but they're just the legs. And then I saw the wings. It's just a dragonfly. It's okay. It's fine. Crisis averted. The whole dating show, we're just kind of told it happens. We're rarely shown that it happens. There's a couple scenes where it's talked about or there's reactions or whatever, but it's honestly not a huge part of the story. And all the contestants are talked about, but every time they mention somebody, I'm like, okay, who is this? Should I be forming some kind of opinion about this person? Because I never know who is who. There were a couple that you recognize the name mentioned a couple times. It's we weren't given the opportunity to form an opinion about any of the contestants or, form a connection with any of them. So the book is called The True Love Experiment, which is the name of of the show, but the show is honestly a pretty small part. Obviously, at the forefront of this story is Fizzy and I almost said Calvin. That was, you shouldn't have come here. Connor. And then I feel like there were other characters that played a role earlier in the book, and then they just kind of disappeared and we didn't really hear about them again. Ooh, unless, I wonder if they do like a third book featuring Connor's ex-wife, Natalia. Is it Natalie or Natalia? I can never remember. Natalia. Okay. I almost wonder if they're going to do a third book and feature Natalia, because I wouldn't hate that. I liked Natalia. She was cool. Overall, this was a fine read. Not a favorite. It's not going to stand out. Very similar to the Soulmate Equation. I've already forgotten a lot about that one. I'm actually going to rate this exactly what I rated the Soulmate Equation, which is 3.5 stars. But I mean, I would recommend it. I know 3.5 stars seems low and seems like a negative rating to some people, but 3.5 to me is good. I mean, that's higher than the halfway mark. So I don't know. I don't think 3.5 stars is bad. And for me, 3.5 means I enjoyed parts about it, but I had a lot to nitpick, and I did. Okay, glasses wearers. When you're not wearing your glasses, do you ever catch yourself like trying to push your glasses up your nose, like readjust them, and then find out they're not even on your face? Yeah, I do that a lot. I just did it. I think that's it for this vlog. So what did I read in this vlog? I read A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, which I rated 2 stars. Wouldn't say that I would recommend that one, especially to T. Kingfisher fans, because personally for me, compared to the other books that I've read by her, not even in the same league. And then for Jess's Sleep When I'm Dead book club for the month of May, I read You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose, which I rated 4 stars. This one, like I said, definitely a slow burn thriller, so go into it expecting it to be a little bit slow as far as thrillers go, and expecting it to be pretty heavy in romance. But I think if you stick with it, I think it could be enjoyed by most people. And then rounding out the vlog, I read The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren, which I rated 3.5 stars. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading vlog. As always, I appreciate you guys being here. If you've read these books, let me know what your opinions on them were down below, especially if we disagree. Please remember to like and subscribe, and until next time.